Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Well, let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 14th day of October, 2021. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds. That will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. It also gives you access to the chat box so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. If you're out of your office or away from your desktop, there's two other ways to join the show. You can point any internet-connected browser to cfrn.net/live. There you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You just won't have access to the chat box. We also stream live each day on our YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/CFRN. youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we stream live, but we archive each and every daily show. Currently, we have over 1,800 daily live broadcasts archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. With that, we'll open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessings, for your mercy, for your grace. We thank you for the opportunity to meet together today. We ask that you surround us with your love. May we see your beauty, feel your love, know your wisdom, and experience your power. May we find the comfort we desire in you and the strength we need in your name. May your presence be with us every hour of the day. May your love be the passion in our hearts. May your joy be our strength when times are hard. May your presence be the peace that overflows in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Well, happy Thursday, guys. I hope it is a happy Thursday for you. Whoever you are, wherever you are, let me give you the numbers from around the world. These are the cash markets, or the indices, as they're called. Starting here at home in the U.S., the Dow is up 509 points. It's 1.5%. The NASDAQ is up 238 points, 1.5%. S&P 500 is up 68 points, 1.5%. And the Russell 2000 is up 30 points, almost 1.5%. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 39 cents, trading 80.83 last. Gold up $4.50, trading 17.9920 last. Silver up 29 cents, trading 23.46 last. For silver, that's a gain of 1.25%. In the Asian markets, at the close, Nikkei posted a gain of 410 points. That's 1.5%. The Shanghai dropped 3.5 points, and the Hang Seng remains unchanged. In the European markets at the close, FTSE up 65, 1%. DAX up 213 points, 1.5%. And the CAC up 87, over 1.25%. That gives us a mixed day in Asia, but a green day in the UK, and it's a big green Radio Thursday here in the US of A. With that, we'll go to Michael and get a recap of what happened in the live training room this morning. After that, I'll be back, and we'll look at the logic alerts, the concierge trade alerts, all that, and answers to your questions at any time. And today's Thursday, so as far as I know, Dr. Tom will be joining us at the top of the hour. Michael, I can see your screen, so it's all yours.
All right, here we go. Good afternoon. All right. Well, good afternoon to everyone. Today is Thursday. Reminder, partners meeting tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're a partner, if you're not a partner and you want to be a partner and you want to get into that meeting, you have to become a partner before the meeting. That said, Thursday afternoon at noon right now, my time, about 12:08. So if you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to take a free trial with us, go here to eminitrainingschool.com, and on this page, all that we ask for is your first name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us your biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the link, we don't know that you took the free trial. So make sure you click on it. All right, now today was a little bit different than yesterday. We did get our goal early on, which is good. But I got to say this, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 14th day of October 2021. We lost 6 ticks in crude, 1 tick in gold, and we made 12 on the ES. Put us up just $80 on the morning session after being up 980 yesterday on the morning session. We're up 80 today. Today it took 9 minutes and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 22 trades. So on the month now, we're at $7,312. So we're 10 trading days, averaging $731 per contract per 2-hour trading day. On the year, that puts us at 196 days out of 199 possible days of getting the goal, and at $118,122 per contract. That's over 199 days, averaging $593 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Now, if you were to stop trading after you got the goal for the day and you did everything exactly as I did so far this year, got all the same fills and everything, you would have worked a total of 53 hours even, it comes out to today. And your average hourly rate on the year would be $2,439 per hour. All right, let's get into it all. Now, we had a pretty even amount of smatterings of trades today, so I'll just start with gold and work my way across. You can see there wasn't a whole lot going on here. These were the first 3 trades this morning where I was getting my goal. We had a break even on this one, another break even on that one. We had a nice YBR trade right here for you guys that are doing YBRs. Those are nice YBR trade set up right there. Then right here, we grabbed our goal for the day. We got our 10 ticks. It did get down to here, which is what we were looking for. It gave one more push right here with momentum short trade. I didn't get into that one. But it did go 4 ticks into profit, so you would have had at least a break even, maybe a little tiny bit of profit on that. Pulled back up and continued the trend down, but you see how the cycle changed down here. So it was trying to do a cycle reset, and then it just gave up on the cycle reset right through here and decided to change directions. So we grabbed right here. Yeah, what did we get? I missed this trade right here in my accounting. So we did actually get better than what it shows. This doesn't make any sense at all because it goes from plus 10 to plus 6. Yeah. Well, let me see if I can remember. I think I got 9 ticks on that, but I'm not sure. And anyway, I ended up with a break even there and a break even there. And I stopped out here. So I went somewhere in here. I got a +1 tick. Wow, I think I wrote this stuff down in the wrong place. Somewhere in here, I got a +1 tick, where I went from 10 to 6 somehow. That doesn't make sense. I think what I did is I got 6 ticks on this and went from 10 to 16. That's probably what it's 10 to 16. And I got 1 tick somewhere in here that put me at 17. And then I stopped out over here. So that should have put me at plus something. But anyway, I got -1 in the books because I stopped out on this one. And that put me at -1. No, I'm pretty sure that it was different than that overall, but we'll go with that. We missed a long trade right in here. This was a good YBR trade too, right in here. Actually, no, it wasn't a good YBR trade. We pulled back too deep. I wouldn't have done that trade for the YBRs. Yeah, the only good YBR trade, this was a good YBR trade, and this was a good YBR trade right here. This was not. Okay. But that was gold. We actually ended up better than I thought on gold. But it is what it is. I wrote it down wrong. Oh, I was doing it. Now, we had natural gas come out today, and natural gas was a miss, but we also had crude inventories come out today, and crude inventories was a huge miss. On crude today, our first trade was right here. Am I even looking at the right day? It looks like we made a little bit on our first trade, but I wrote it down as a break even there, then a stop out here. So we're at -8 at that point. Then we had another break even and another break even, and a +2 right there to get us to -6, and then another break even. And then the crude inventories came out right through here, and we didn't do anything. We had another break even, and then we get into the afternoon session. Now, I was waiting for the close in the morning, and I had drawn in, I thought I had drawn in the low of the day. I might have done it on a 30-minute. Yeah, I did, right here. The low of the day that I thought it was going to get down to. Now, I was thinking it was going to get down to before the close of the 11:30 bar, but it gave a double bottom right here at 80.60. And I was thinking we were going to have a bullish run during the break, but I hadn't anticipated that it was going to pop down here. But I did draw this line down here this morning, like 11:28, thinking that this, if it's going to go down, this is where it's going to go, and we should have a bullish candle after this bar it actually gave a double bottom right here. This one and this one gave the double bottom. So I'm going to go back and look at how that all transpired again. It was right in here that I had said all that. Okay, and right in here where I drew that, right here, where I drew that line down there at 80.40. And so it came right down to 80.40, and then it was bullish after that. So during the break, for all you guys who were in there in the morning session, you saw all that. During the break, there was a bounce off the BBC right there that was bullish. There was a trade right here that was bullish. Both of those could have taken some profit on. This would have been a break even, and then it got kind of junky after that. But knowing what I had said in here about this being bullish, and we're going to get a retracement back up to the BBC probably, about this huge candle being like a vacuum back up toward the BBC. That's what this all was right here. Okay. All right. ES. Now, I'll come all the way over here. All right, so the ES started out right here. I want to go over the news events here in just a minute with you too. But the ES started out here, and it was really choppy. That's why we didn't do anything through here. We wanted to break out of the chop, and then finally it broke out a little bit to the downside, but we had a zone right here. Then it turned around and started going up. I wanted to see it get all the way out, and it did over here. And so our first trade on the ES was right here. We picked up 8 ticks on that one. Then it turned around and started giving us a head and shoulder pattern right here. It never broke the neckline, but it gave us 4 ticks right here to get us to +12. Then we had a break-even trade, another break-even trade, another break-even trade, another break-even trade, and another break-even trade. Now, I know that's a lot of break-even trades, but basically what that says is, it was just barely given trade setups. And, at the end of the session, this is what it looked like before I had this trend line like that. It was drawn like that. So it gave us this look right here. And then once it broke out of that look, came right back into it and gave more chop. So there was really no reason to trade any of this. All right, and that was the ES this morning. So it wasn't an easy trading day, and I did actually end up better than what I put down in the books. But well, that's my mistake. So here we go. Today, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the TC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 14th day of October, 2021. We lost 6 in crude, 1 in gold, and that should be better. This, I think, is right, but that should be better. And we made 12 on the ES, and that is correct. But a whole bunch of break-even trades that went into that. So it took 9 minutes this morning and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, around $100 a contract, and we took a total of just 22 trades, 15 less than yesterday. Okay, on the month now, it looks like our average number of trades is 23 per day. But on the month now, we've made $7,312. So 10 trading days, averaging $731 per contract per 2-hour day. And we still have 11 trading days left this month. So this could be a big month going toward my goal for the year. And that said, hang on. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to go over the news events anyway. Okay. That said, on the year now, we're at $118,122. Now I had adjusted my goal at the beginning of this month. Actually at the beginning of last month when we got to $100,000. I had adjusted my goal for the year to be 140,000 instead of 150,000. Because, I never know what the market's going to give me. And it seems like, getting an average of 7,000 or 8,000 a month is something that I can do on a regular basis. Even if the markets aren't giving me great opportunities. But like in this month here in August, that was our lowest month of the year. And we still managed to get, 7,800 in August. I don't know how many contracts we traded in August, but I know how many contracts we traded. Let me go back and look at that. Hang on. Is this August right here? No, that's not August. That's not August. Did I go by August? I think I did. Yeah, I did on May, June, July, August. Okay, so in August, we averaged, what is this number here? Oh, it's a sum. That's not an average. And that is some. But we averaged on the day in August $371 per contract. And then I took that here to 540 and to right now 731. But what we were going to have to get on average when we hit $100,000 a contract, and we did that back here in this month, was we're going to have to average $700 a month. $700 a day. I thought is what the number came up to get to $150,000 a contract by the end of the year. But if it keeps giving us days like yesterday and this day back here earlier this week or last week and that day, which was the second day of the month, we could still hit that 150 by the end of the year. I'm not going to make a thing out of it. I keep telling myself that. So anyway, if you were to quit trading when you got the goal for the day, every day this year so far, and you were to add 1 contract per month. Now again, this year, just so you guys know, Dwayne asked me. He said he's going to be a couple of minutes. That's why I'm taking a little more time explaining all this. This right here is one contract per month, but using the 2420 blueprint, you want to make $2,000 per contract traded before you add another one. So from here to here, you wanted to have at least $2,000 profit, and you would have. And from here to here, you want to have $4,000 profit, and you would have. And from here to here, you wanted to have 6,000, and you would have. And here to here, you wanted to have 8,000, and you would have. And from here to here, see, you want to have 10,000, and you would have. And here to here, you wanted to have 12,000, and you would have. And here you want to have 14, and you would have. And here 16, and you would have. And here 18, and you would have. So right now, between this month and next month, if we were trading 10 contracts, we would want to have $20,000 in profit before adding the 11th contract. If we were trading 10 contracts. So this number right here, if we were trading 10 contracts, this number would be, that'd be times 10. So you'll see that come out at the end of the month, I think. I think I did the math right in my head there. But anyway, if you were to quit trading when you got the goal for the day, every single day, you would have only worked 53 hours even so far this year. And you would have averaged $2,439 per contract per 2-hour day. Okay. All right. Yeah, you see the big difference here. Going from 113 to 129. And now that we're at 10 contracts, it's going to go from 129 up to some much larger number by the end of the month. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. All right, so the thing that I wanted to look at with you here was the news events for today. Now this is for tomorrow, but today, see, we had a miss here that they're calling bullish on the natural gas. Okay, and we had a huge miss on the crude inventories. They're expecting a build of 1.1 million, and we got to build a 6.1 million. That's a huge miss. Okay, and in here, the PPI and the core PPI, they were both misses this morning, and that's the producer price index. I don't know why this thing is taking so long to load right now. It's not like a ton of people are doing it. You know what happened the last time? I just loaded up a fresh one, and it loaded faster than the existing one. Let's see that. Now this isn't done loading yet, but neither one of them are done loading right now. So we'll see which one wins. Anyway, but you see we had the miss this morning on the PPI and the core PPI, and those are high impact news events today. So tomorrow, that's what I was looking at back on this one. Tomorrow, yeah, give it more stuff to load. Here we go. Tomorrow we have core retail sales and retail sales coming out pre-market. Okay, those are big numbers tomorrow. And then we have all this garbage that's coming out right here. Consumer sentiment and inflation expectations from University of Michigan. Now, that might be worth something if it had all the professors at University of Michigan, but it's just random students. And I don't know what the value of all that is. Hey, look, that one finished loading. Okay, so core retail sales tomorrow. Now I'm requesting more information right now. We'll see how long that takes. Anyway. And the PPI today, if you look at that, hang on, it's requesting more information right now. It should already load. But, well, that's neither here nor there. All right. Okay, so let me just jump back here for a second. Hang on. Here, go back here. Okay, so as I was saying, on the month, we're up $118,122 a contract. So we're 199 trading days, averaging $593 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Okay, and that's on a month, on the year. And to take a free trial with us, if you haven't taken one, go here to eminitrainingschool.com, and right here, all we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us the biggest trading challenge, so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the link, we don't know you took the free trial, so make sure you click on that link. All right, Dwayne is back. So with that, we can pass it back out. The fabulous Phoenix, Arizona is Studio A overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, looks like you're ready.
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Recap of the recap.
Today it took 9 minutes and 3 trades to get to $100 per contract.
Good job again.
Thank you.
Okay, any other big news? I heard you mentioning that the
Yeah,
those
crude
high
was a
impact-
huge miss.
high impact reports
Yeah,
were
yeah. Well, we had nothing was on today, but for some reason my browser's having trouble loading everything up. But the PPI came out off. The core PPI came out half of what was expected, and the PPI came out lower than what was expected. Now the PPI, for everybody who doesn't know, is a change in the price of finished goods and services sold by producers, excluding food and energy. Okay. So,
which nobody uses, right?
yeah, nobody uses finished goods. You know, excluding the food and energy, particularly nobody uses food and energy, and so it's just all pointing toward more inflation. And tomorrow we have retail prices coming out. Retail sales coming out. That's at 8:30 in the pre-market, and that's the change in the total value of sales at the retail level, excluding cars. You do have just retail sales. That was core retail sales. Retail sales does include cars.
Well, I guess if
And
there's
retail
inflation,
sales.
the retail sales number should probably be higher.
You would think. So let's wait and see. I
Which
think it
shows
could-
up as a
I missed
positive,
it.
but in actuality, it's a negative.
Right. And when you put all the pieces together, you know, that's the one thing, you know, when Biden is doing his limited press releases, he's doing limited press. It's like when the media, they just take a piece of the context of something out and they blow that little piece out of proportion. So if one thing looks good, this is what Biden's doing with his limited press releases. He's taking that one little thing that might look good if you're looking just at that,
Right.
and say, oh, look, this is the best it's been in ever, you know, since they've been keeping records. Well, yeah, that's because it was so awful. And the things that made it better are not good things. Nothing good made it better. It was all bad things that made it suddenly the numbers work out. You know, like if you have 100 employees and you fire 50 of them, and then you give a mandate that says, you give a mandate that says you got to, everybody's got to get the shot or whatever, or you give some sort of thing that pressures people into a position where they're going to either be employed or not employed, and then 50 of them are suddenly not employed, and the one, you know, it just throws the numbers all off. The total number of people is skewed, and all the numbers are skewed, and it's just looking at one little piece of it. I'm sorry, I just got off on a tangent there, and I really don't want to. Okay, back to you, Dwayne.
It sounded good. All right, guys. We'll start out here. You just heard what happened during the 2 hours this morning in the live trading room, 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. every trading day. And this is what happened since Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, when the Globex markets open. The futures markets open Sunday night 6 p.m. Eastern and remain open around the clock until Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. And the Logic 247 alerts come out around the clock as opportunity presents itself. So since the markets opened Sunday night, we've issued a total of 27 alerts. One never triggered. We're all caught up. We've had 26 actionable alerts. And of those 26, 5 or 19% would have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible, using market structure and a simple 3-step process that we teach all of our traders. Now we're in week 167 of Logic 247, but we also still have our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. The format for those is a little bit different. The CTAs come out as a static report shortly after the Globex opened each evening. So last night, 15 minutes after the open. And there's 2 numbers for each market: S&P, Dow, Russell, crude, NQ, gold, and silver. And when we go to the chart, you'll see how I've drawn a line in the sand at 43.59, how I've drawn a line in the sand at 43.40. Once this static report is published, and the numbers are good for the entire session, if price starts climbing up towards 43.59, that's bullish. So our strategy will look for opportunities to buy the market, and you'll use everything you learn in the live training room to yourself look for opportunities to get long the market. If price starts trending down towards this number, 43.40, that's bearish. And what will happen is our strategy will look for opportunities to sell the market or be short as price trends down. And that's also where you learn everything, use everything Michael teaches you in the live training room each morning to find your own opportunities along with the logic alerts to be short the market. And last night we were long pretty much everything. So if you want a screenshot of this, you can grab it, and then we'll go to the chart. Okay. And we'll start with the daily chart, where we have one big green candle. Certainly glad the alerts last night told everybody to be on the long side. Now up here we have the all-time historic high intraday, the all-time historic closing high, and from there we had a leg, a retracement, a leg, and a retracement, and then we had a leg, and we had a higher low. And so right now price, we've sort of got a little better than a double top, right, where this high was 44.21 and a half. We're at 44.26 and a quarter. So we've taken out that spike high. We spent 3 days battling at the BBC. Price dropped to blue and climbing, which we expect to be good support. Everything that we teach, everything that we show you is fluid across all markets and all time frames. So from resistance to support, price is now traded through the BBC, the daily BBC, and we're just barely off the high of the session. Potential resistance in this area, if we get through this area, the next area for resistance would be roughly 44.41, and then above that 44.69, If we clear 44.69 and get up into this area, then we have an opportunity to make a run at the all-time historic intraday high. So on the 30-minute chart of the S&P, the CTA last night was to be long 43.59. The trade to target was 43.69, 10 points higher. At $50 a point, that's $500 per contract traded. Now, when price rallies up to a weekly trading zone, we expect it to be resistance, and it was. We consolidated. Only three things happen at a weekly trading zone. Consolidations are the most likely. So we consolidated here at the weekly zone, 43.69 / 43.70. Price finally broke away from the zone, took us to the next zone where we consolidated for a couple candles, to the next zone where we consolidated shortly, and now we're at 44.22 / 23. And that leaves only one more weekly trading zone up above for the week, and that's up at 44.69 / 70. So again, my instructions to everyone last night was to be long 43.59 on the S&P, and that was published at 6:15 Eastern. On the Dow, the long side 34.350. We triggered it once and ran up to 78. That's 28 points at $5 a point. And we dipped back below, triggered again. This time we ran up to 388. So that's about 38 points at $5 a point. And then one last time we dipped below the trigger and made it to the target, which was 34.393. We overcame the weekly zone. Price pulled back to the zone, found support. When price is rising, we expect the zone to be resistance. When price pulls back, we expect the zone to be support. And as you can see, we traveled from this zone all the way to this zone at 34.630. And the next zone overhead is at 34.885 / 34.890. So a big day for the bulls. No trigger on the short side. On the Russell, the long side 22.44. The trade to target was 22.61, and so that's almost 20 points. At $50 a point, that's $1,000 per contract traded, and we did actually make 64, but the zone is 61.62, so we were just a couple points shy of that 20-point move. But then the market has continued, and the next weekly zone overhead is at 22.86 / 22.87. On the NQ, the long side, the trigger was 14.808. On the first move up, we went from 808 to 836. Then we pulled back, and we finally made it to the target, which was 864. So 864 minus 8 Hang on, I'll get my calculator working. 864 minus 808 is 56 points. At $20 a point, it would be $1,120 per contract traded. If you took profit at the target, which was the weekly trading zone, price then got above the zone, gave a little pullback to the zone. When price pulls back to a zone, we expect it to be support until proven otherwise. That sent us higher, up to 1469.75. And we've got a high on the session of 15.039. Big day for tech. This is the start of earnings season. The markets apparently like earnings season very much. So that covers the 4 indexes. There's the S&P and the Dow and the Russell and the NQ. On crude oil, on the long side, the trigger was 80.80. Price ran up to the zone at 81.15. So that's $350 per contract traded. And then price got back below the trigger. However, our blue and climbing turned to red and falling. So even though we triggered again and ran to the target again, you would be very cautious on taking this type of a trade, because with red and falling overhead, that represents resistance. And as you can see, as price hit red and falling, took price right down with it. The thing is when you've got red and falling showing overhead, there's no guarantee that price is actually going to make it up to red and falling. In this case it did, and that happened to be right at the target. So while we had a very nice trade here where all the criteria were met, this one here, not so much. And it looks like we're about to dip back below 80.80 again. If we do, you want to wait for red and falling to turn back into blue and climbing as the market tries to work its way to the upside. On gold. Gold had a huge move yesterday, and the CTA on the long side last night. 17.99, and we triggered and ran up to almost 18.02. So it's $290 per contract traded. And we got back below the trigger, triggered again. We still had blue and climbing. And that took us to 1801.4, so that's $240 per contract traded. Then we got back below the trigger, and as you can see, blue and climbing turned to red and falling, and this is where we're stuck right now. We pull back to the BVC. Now the pullback holds more often than it doesn't, as you can see here, 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 and here. So if this pullback holds, the optimum thing would be to see price dip below and then trigger, so that you would have the support of blue and climbing. Going long into red and falling is kind of like getting in your car in the garage and cranking it up and putting it in drive instead of reverse, because that wall in front of you is probably going to stop you, and red and falling on the 30-minute chart most often will stop any forward progress, as you can see right here. Silver on the long side, 23.25, and from 23.25 we ran up to 23.50. I'm sorry, from 23.32 we ran up to 23.51. It's basically a 20-cent move, And 2 pennies is $100. We opened here. We started to head lower, but we never triggered on the short side. And we caught a bullish cross that took us up through this weekly zone at 23.15. And then after the trigger, price ground to a halt right at the weekly trading zone, 23.51/52. And then we pulled back below the trigger a second time. We made another run. This one again, you can see red and falling showed up, and price is still finding resistance right here. And our good friend Dr. Tom, right on time, joining us now. Just waiting to get his mic open. I can see you've logged in, Dr. Tom. I just don't see your microphone yet. There we go. Now it looks like you're just muted on your end. There you go.
About now.
Nah, you got an open mic. Welcome to the show.
And maybe I'll become famous.
You already are. How much more famous do you want to be?
I'm a legend in my own mind.
And mine too. You're a legend in many minds.
Well, thank you very much.
Good to have you with us. What's on your
thank
mind
you.
this week?
Well, I don't like the fact that our government is being weaponized against American citizens. That the Justice Department has ordered the FBI to investigate soccer moms and consider them domestic terrorists. That's pretty bad. And it's not just that, it's all over the place. I mean, you and I both served in the military. We're considered by the Justice Department potential domestic terrorists because of the skills that the military taught us. It's pretty crazy. But I wrote an article for Conservative Truth, and by the way, I'll give a shameless pitch for Conservative Truth. We're the oldest Christian conservative website on the internet, and we've been publishing for 20 years, and it's sort of my creative outlet. Besides the ministry website, Christian Financial Concepts, and my business website, which is Golden Art. This is sort of my place where I can express my feelings.
Truth.org. And here's
while
the
you're
truth.
there, you go. While you're there, you might just take a look. Like if you look over to the side, we have all the founding documents. We want to make it easy for people.
Right here.
Exactly. And to just go down through them really quickly, we all know about the Declaration of Independence. What a lot of people don't know is that we didn't start the country off with a constitution. We were a little busy fighting a war. So we had a document called the Articles of Confederation. And by the time we'd won the war and then got all the different states on the same page, it was 12 years before we got the Constitution. Um, the other thing I'd like to mention about this is that the Bill of Rights, although technically they're amendments, the first 10 amendments are known as the Bill of Rights. They're really part of the Constitution. And the reason I say this is that there were a number of states, representatives from different states, that wouldn't sign the Constitution because it didn't have a Bill of Rights. A lot of people felt like, well, we're good people. This is a good Constitution. We're going to treat people right. And they said, no, we wanted in writing the rights that God gave us. We want that codified, because they hadn't had that in England, and Holland, and so on, where Scotland, so on, where most of our immigrants had come from. So an agreement was reached that within a short time, that a Bill of Rights would be passed, and then they agreed to sign the Constitution. Otherwise, it might never have happened. It took them several years. I go through the history of it, but I won't. But it took a number of years before the final state signed off on the Bill of Rights. There were 12 of them originally, and 10 of them were considered to be important enough by all 13 states to become part of the Bill of Rights. So that's why they're listed separately. And then all the rest of the amendments are listed together. But then also, I really encourage people to read the Federalist Papers. I'm sure you use a Bible commentary, right, Dwayne?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't use it in place of the Bible, but as a supplement to the Bible.
Correct.
Well, the Federalist Papers weren't written for that purpose, but they serve that purpose because the very people who wrote the Constitution actually wrote the Declaration, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. They also wrote the Federalist Papers. And what they were doing was talking about why certain things were in the Constitution and why they weren't. Why they made these decisions, why they put in the balance of powers and so on. So it's much easier to understand the Constitution if you have this sort of commentary on the Constitution that the Federalist Papers provide. For instance, you'll notice that the Constitution, there's no Federal Reserve, right? Other countries call it what it is. We call it the Federal Reserve because when it was passed, it was snuck in, and the founding fathers had all suffered under central banking in their home countries when they came here, and they wanted nothing to do with it because the central banks were an arm of the government that enriched the rich and impoverished the poor. So people say, well, they didn't have a central bank in the Constitution because they didn't know about it. Well, of course they did. They'd seen the evils of central banking. And so they held it off for a long time. The first time the central bank was proposed, it was the founding fathers, the ones that were left, that led the charge against it, and they defeated it. And then finally one was passed, and it only lasted 20 years. It did great damage to the country. And then it was repealed. And then we had a blessed 80 years or so, no central banking. So for those of you who say that we have to have the Federal Reserve, can't get along without it, we've gotten along without it for most of the existence of the nation. So the they passed a second central bank, not the first one called the first bank of the United States. The second one, they weren't too imaginative. They called it the second bank of the United States. I would have named it Tom's Bank or something a little more interesting. Anyway, that too caused damage to the economy. It made the rich people richer and the poor people poorer, and it was taken down. And then finally, they tricked the people. That's a whole story, but if you want to find out about it, it's two places. If you want the short version, go to Conservative Truth and look in the archives and search for the non-federal Fed. You may or may not know this, but on most any website, unless they've turned off the ability, even if they don't have a search feature, you can do Control F. So, like if you're in the archives.
I'm in the archives. I just did Control F.
Okay, and just type in Fed. There. And you'll see that there's 8 of them. So you just scroll down.
Federal Fed.
8 places where the letters FED are found, but it's the one that you're looking for. That's the short version of the really treason that went on to form the Federal Reserve. Because the Constitution, if you search the Constitution using that same Control F, or any words you can think of that has to do with money or economics, the word money, silver, gold, currency, coins, bills, notes, whatever, anything you can think of. You only find 2 concepts in the Constitution. One is that the only legal money is gold and silver, and 2, that only Congress has the power to coin money, not print money, to coin money. So again, I get the argument, well, they didn't know about paper money. All they knew was coins, because that's the way they did business. Most business was done with coin, and there's a reason for that. Our first currency that we had in this country, which was called the Continental Dollar, because it was issued by the Continental Congress that without the Articles of Confederation originally. They issued paper money, lots and lots of it, to finance the war. And it hyperinflated so badly, for those who say, well, the U.S. could never have hyperinflation. Our very first currency hyperinflated to the point where 1 continental dollar was worth 1/10 of a penny. So it took $1,000 by the time it was over with.
Wow.
To buy what $1 bought originally. So George Washington is quoted as not absolutely 1,000%. He said this, but most people believe that the quote is correct. But whether he said it or somebody else said it, it's true. With a wagon load of Continentals, one could not buy a wagon load of victuals. That's a pretty amazing statement.
That's a Granny Clampett word, victuals.
Yeah, I love that. But that would be like saying, you know, I've got a big box truck filled with $100 bills, and I can't buy a truck full of food with that same money. So that's where the Continental Dollar went. And what we have today, the fake money the Federal Reserve money is simply the continental dollar with a different name because it has exactly the same characteristics. It's backed by nothing. They can print as much as they want to. The in-between period for 157 years when we had real money in the country backed by gold and silver, we didn't have inflation, deflation, stagflation, whatever inflation you can think of. We didn't have recessions. Our money stayed at pretty much the same value. The day we got the US dollar, which was after the Constitution, ours was the first, and I believe still, the only constitution in the world that defines what money is gold and silver coin. Every constitution talks about money, but what good is it to talk about something if you don't know what it is? None of them define money except ours. And it said that only Congress had the power to coin money. You can't coin paper money. And Congress does not have the authority under the Constitution to subcontract its duty. One of the most important duties of any government is to regulate the currency. And so what they did when these crooks created the Federal Reserve System is they took Congress's power away from them. Congress agreed to it, but they said, don't worry about the money, we'll handle it. And so their role and function was supposedly to regulate interest rates and therefore keep our economy on an even keel. And of course, they print the money that Congress is supposed to be creating. So things like that, you find out through reading the Federalist Papers. So, like I say, it's like a Bible commentary to a Christian, or the Midrash to Jewish people. It's the rabbis explaining things in the Torah that are a little harder to understand. And so take the time, look, you're a citizen of this country. Most everybody listening to me right now is sometime or another said, well, that's unconstitutional, or this is what the Constitution says. And when I talk to some of these people, I'll ask them, when's the last time you read the Constitution? I think every American should read it at least once a year. It takes about 45 minutes. And most of the time they'll tell me, well, it was back when I was in grade school. What they're saying is that this is what they think the Constitution would say, but they don't know. In some cases, they've never read the Constitution. Younger people today, they don't study the Constitution in high school, middle school, even in college. There's no requirement to understand the Constitution, yet it's the governing document of this nation. So if we're going to be good citizens, then we should read the Constitution. One other article bears on this. If you look in the archives, look up the word last. Okay. LAST.
LAST?
Yes, sir. not there.
Oh, that's because I'm on this one article. Which category should I be under?
Well, click on archives and go back to the general list.
Okay.
Okay, now try searching last.
Okay.
All right,
14.
There's 14 of them. We keep going down till you see the last Democrat. A lot of people were overjoyed when they saw that title because they thought that there's no more Democrats. It's not what the article's about.
Here, let me just use this. That'll get me there quicker.
Yeah. It may not be up there because I wrote it
The last
a long
Democrat.
time.
There it is.
There we go. Okay, hit that guy. Scroll down. This is the little White House down in Key West, and it's worth going to see. It's Harry Truman's version of Martha's Vineyard, or Reagan's Ranch in California. You know, his retreat. And one of the pictures that I took, but I couldn't find it for this article, was a picture of his bedroom. He had it exactly as it was the last time he was there. And on the bedstand was a copy of the Constitution. So I'm not talking about the last Democrat in existence, but I said there, I believe I've discovered evidence concerning the last Democrat ever to read the Constitution of the United States of America. This could be an important historical find. And of course, that's a little tongue-in-cheek. I know that other Democrats do read the Constitution, but if you look at the laws they pass, you'd think they'd never seen the Constitution. So it's, you know, it's just real important. I didn't really mean to talk about that today. I have something else that I want to go into that has more to do with current events and the danger to you of expressing your opinion. We've all heard in the news recently about a Marine.
Yes.
Not just any Marine, a lieutenant colonel, a high-ranking officer who, because of a social media post, right now sits rotting in prison and may be there for the rest of his life.
I thought they let him out. That lieutenant colonel, is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, he is the one. I didn't realize. I know there was some talk about letting him out pending trial.
I think they
because there was.
Now they may have rearrested him, but they did at least at some point they let him out for a short period of time.
I know they did that initially. They arrested him, they booked him, they released him, and then they put him back in prison.
Okay.
But they said they were going to leave him in there until the trial. And
I think his name
there
is
was
Schuler, right? Schuler or Schiller?
Scheller.
Scheller.
Scheller. But when you see a patriot, a warrior,
Ller.
Right, Lieutenant Colonel Scheller. And by the way, if somebody from Fox News is listening, please, when you refer to a lieutenant colonel, you don't call him lieutenant colonel. You refer to him as colonel. It's just like a brigadier general. You don't say brigadier general so-and-so. You know, it's just general. Why they don't seem to get that. It's just basic protocol.
So I guess he appeared at his court-martial today.
It was today? Okay. And does it say anything about what transpired there?
It says he admits his wife had left him and he lost his business when he went on blistering social media tirade over military's handling of Afghanistan withdrawal. He was flanked by his defense team. He's expected to plead guilty to multiple charges. He admitted in the hearing that his life was spiraling when he continued to attack the generals online. He chose to plead guilty to the following 6 charges: contempt toward officials, willfully disobeying a superior commissioned officer, failure to obey lawful general orders, and conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman. It's interesting to note that senior leaders have not dismissed his message, but they want to crush the messenger. The trial comes after Scheller condemned the chaotic effort that killed 13 service members in Kabul in a Facebook video in August. He was forced to spend a week in solitary confinement in the brig.
A solitary confinement for a Twitter, or for a tweet, I mean, that was the lawful order they talk about that he disobeyed. They said don't post on social media anymore. And there's serious questions about whether that was a lawful order. Because, just because you join the military doesn't mean that you lose your rights as a citizen. Now, there are some differences. There's another article there that is about the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ. It's a recent one, so it kind of goes through. Now, there have to be some differences in the justice system in the military and in civilian life. Because if you're in battle and you ignore an order of an officer, you could get a lot of people killed. But the UCMJ is draconian. It's an entirely different legal system. You don't have the right to counsel of your choice in most cases.
Right.
They assign counsel to you.
Right.
A lot of time, your so-called counsel is a peer, another sergeant or corporal or whatever, who's assigned to defend you. Sort of like, you see on the cop shows, if the cop is brought before IAD, then his union rep comes.
Mm-hmm.
His union rep's not a lawyer. He's just a cop that's got some experience. But a lot of times, these guys have no experience, or it may be a summary court-martial where you just get called into the commander's office. There may not even be any witnesses, and the commander is judge, jury, and executioner, and he can actually destroy a man's life, give him a dishonorable discharge if he feels disrespected. So this whole thing was about Biden, who has major insecurity problems, felt insulted. And because Scheller wouldn't back off, he stood up for his rights as an American citizen. He offered to resign, and they should have let him resign. By doing that, he was giving up about $2 million in benefits, since he was only 3 years away from his 20-year retirement. He had VA benefits and a pension for the rest of his life. So by resigning and saying, basically, sorry I did this, and offering to resign, he would have lost a couple $1 million, but he would have at least had his freedom. They refused to accept his resignation. No grounds for refusing, except for the fact that Biden wanted to keep him there so he could persecute him. But the point of, my point today is that the government is being used as a political tool. If a parent speaks up at a school board meeting, you better watch out.
Yeah, because you're going to be labeled a domestic terrorist.
Exactly. And, you may say something as simple as to a school board member, okay, you're going to be sorry you voted that way. I mean, that's something that would be very common in a meeting. And it's not a threat, but they're now saying, the National Education Association, I call them the National Teachers Mafia. They and other special interest groups control the Democrat Party. You couldn't get a Democrat elected dog catcher if you didn't have the union behind you, the teachers union. They're huge and they're powerful. So they commanded Biden to label parents who speak up at these school board meetings domestic terrorists. They've never done that before when teachers complained about curricula. There's schools that your kids go to. If you go down and look at the library, there's pornography on the shelves. And they call that freedom of speech, all right? And there's been some heated exchanges about it, but the parents have never been accused of being domestic terrorists. But now that they got this critical race theory, regardless of what your race is, this should upset you, okay? If you're conservative, then basically you're a racist. I know, a number of black people who are prominent conservatives.
Right.
And they're labeled as racist and white supremacist. How can a black person be a white supremacist?
The world's gone crazy.
Well, the Bible talks about, calling darkness light and light darkness. But what's really got the parents riled up right now is this, what's called critical race theory. And white children are told that they're racist. I mean, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids are told that they're racist, that they should be ashamed, that their parents are racist, that their ancestors were racist because hundreds of years ago they had slaves. I never had a slave in my life. But yet I'm a racist because maybe my grandparents had slaves. I mean, it's craziness. But they shame these children. And it's not just there. It's happening in businesses. People are told you have to attend these classes on racial sensitivity, and you have to stand up and say, I'm a racist. I'm ashamed of myself. I repent of my horrible racism and so on. And this could be a person who's best friends with somebody of another race, or
Right,
maybe
yeah.
even
You're forced
a
to
white
say these
person.
things even if they're not true.
Yeah, there was one white guy who's married to a black lady, and he was forced to say that he's a racist in front of everybody in his company or get fired. Now it's happening in the military. They're forcing guys in the military. So the critical race theory is part of the whole socialist, communist agenda. It's trying to get people to obey whatever the government says, no matter how ridiculous it is. Look at this forced vaccination, okay? They're telling people, and the Biden has told companies he wants them to do this. He doesn't have the authority to tell a private company what to do, but he tells them in no uncertain terms what he wants, and he controls tax breaks that they could get, or whether they get licenses, or whether they get government contracts. So most of them are going along with it. They're forcing their employees to get vaccinated. Now, I'm not arguing the merits of vaccination or non-vaccination here. I am saying that, number one, medical professionals are not allowed to give out private information about people's medical history, procedures, whatever, and that includes shots. Okay, it's called the HIPAA laws, HIPPA. Look it up. And yet, Biden has told medical providers to give big companies a list of any of their employees who haven't been vaccinated. And then they're told either you get vaccinated or quit. Well, I'm here to tell you, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've heard enough lawyers that believe in civil rights talk about this. I could say unequivocally, do not quit. Valerie, Michael, if Dwayne tells you you have to get vaccinated or you have to quit, don't do it, okay? Make them fire you. Because if you quit, then you're not entitled to unemployment benefits, number one. But that's minor. What's coming is massive class action lawsuits where people are going to sue the companies. And I also believe they're going to sue the government, because the government's not only making government employees, but government contractors. And now insurance companies are telling people, even if you're vaccinated, you're the one we're insuring. If someone in your household, like your wife, is not vaccinated, we're going to pull your insurance policy. Can you imagine that? I mean, the wife's not even on his policy. So the main thing is, if you quit, then when these class action lawsuits come up where you sue the employer or the government for unlawful termination, because it's illegal to fire somebody because they don't want to put something in their body that either for religious reasons or medical reasons or just freedom and liberty reasons don't want to do it. If you quit, that's why they're pushing you so hard for you to quit, then you can't sue later on. I believe that that's going to happen, that we're going to see major lawsuits with millions of people as complainants. And this is all going to be, it's all going to be turned around. They're already finding out that the vaccination doesn't work. So many people are getting the virus after getting the vaccination. Now they're telling you, well, even if you're vaccinated and had the 2 shots, that's not enough. Now you have to have a booster to be able to say that you've been fully vaccinated. The latest thing is you may have to take boosters for the rest of your life once you've started on this process. So they're trying to keep the China virus alive as a way of making people fearful, so that they'll do what the government wants them to do. But, you know, the vaccination process, according to people like Fauci, will never be over with. He said you're probably going to have booster shots for the rest of your life. So, bottom line, if you don't do everything the government says you should do, if you speak up in a public meeting and disagree with elected officials, if you put things on Twitter or Facebook that the government doesn't like, you could end up in jail. You could end up being labeled as a domestic terrorist. And don't forget how we treat terrorists. If we have a terrorist from another country, they can be held incommunicado. They can be held indefinitely. with no charges put against them. They can be held without having benefit of counsel. Now, they haven't done that yet with anybody who we label a domestic terrorist, because they still, they know that people still honor the Constitution. Most people don't care that much if some Arab that is trying to plot against the United States doesn't have constitutional rights, because legally they don't. They're not American citizens. They don't have rights under our institution. Although a lot of liberals are trying to make it that way. Even the illegal aliens that know they're breaking the law when they cross our border, they're trying to say that they get the same rights and really better than American citizens. We pay for lawyers for them. We put them up in hotels. We pay for a good friend, he's from England. And it's hard to become an American citizen legally. It takes years. It's very expensive. He spent about 30 grand in 7 years. And so when he did become American citizen, it was a really big deal for him, because he fought hard to get that status. And I told him what he should have done was just fly to Mexico, walk across the border in the places where they hadn't built the wall yet, and then he wouldn't have to pay all that money for lawyers. The United States would have provided him a lawyer. They give him housing, give his children schooling. He'd get free medical care. I mean, I was joking. I don't think anybody should do that. But I mean,
Yeah, but the irony of what you're saying is so true.
yeah, it's well, we just had 15,000 patients come across the border. Many of them that have the virus. They were put on buses and dumped off in towns all over the country, but mostly in Republican towns, mostly in small towns. They can't afford a lawyer to defend them against the government. And sometimes they have their population increased by 10 or 20 or 30% with the illegals that don't speak the language. And the federal government did it. It's their responsibility to take care of them, but they don't. They dump them usually in the middle of the night, and people wake up in the morning and find all these people standing around in the public square.
Right.
Now they're supposed to provide them with shelter, food, schooling, health care, and so on, and they have no recourse. I was real proud of that one town in California. Can't remember. There was 3 bus loads of 50 each, so 150 illegal aliens. They were on their way, government buses, to dump them in their town. And they heard about it in time, and they blocked the highway, trucks and tractors, and they stood in front of those tractors. They didn't point their guns at anybody, but they're standing there holding shotguns. And they say, "You're not coming into our town." And there was a standoff for several hours while these people called Washington, said, what do we do? What do we do? You know, and finally they turned the buses around, but they just probably dropped them off someplace else. Now guess where they never drop people off?
Where?
Washington, D.C.,
Right.
Chicago, New York, Democrat-controlled cities. They're trying to do 2 things by their strategy of dumping them in red states and towns. They're trying to impoverish those towns, number one, and they're trying to dilute their voter base And, they make sure that the illegals know that it's the Democrats that got them in. They have people at the border with pamphlets written in Spanish on how to get on welfare, how to get a free cell phone, how to get medical care, all this stuff. And so I really shouldn't call them illegal aliens, although that's what they are under the law. I should call them future Democrat voters, because that's the whole idea. Am I ringing that bell?
No, it's my phone. I'll turn it off.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
it's a nice ring though. Very pleasant. My ringtone is because I love Donald Duck, and I do Donald Duck imitations for the kids at the church. I can even sneeze like a duck. So I have a Donald Duck ringtone. But look, folks, we got to get our country back. I mean, it's not going to be enough just to win at the midterms. We've got to get Biden out of the White House before he completely destroys the country. In 9 months, he spent more money than the last 2 full fiscal years on record. Imagine what he could do in 4 years. If we let him stay in office for 4 years, he'll do so much damage and put in place so many things. Like, for instance, they want to make Washington, D.C. a state. It's a town, for heaven's sake.
Right.
But as a state, it's going to have the right to have 2 senators. So that's going to totally skew the balance of power in the Senate. And because they have so few people, they would only get 1 representative. Well, they would be represented in Congress and the Senate, just like Rhode Island. Rhode Island is a small state, so it has a few number of people, and the representatives are apportioned by the number of people. That's why California and Texas have huge numbers in the House of Representatives. But to keep things even, the Founding Fathers set the Constitution up that every state gets 2 senators, no matter how big or small. So that helped keep a balance between the big states and the small states. They also want to make Puerto Rico, which is overwhelmingly Democrat, into a state. Half the people in Puerto Rico, well, I don't know about half, but a huge number of people in Puerto Rico don't want to be attached to the United States at all. You have 3 groups of people down there. One, they want statehood for Puerto Rico. Another that's perfectly happy the way things are is they get all the benefits of American citizenship, including voting in our national elections, but they pay far less taxes than American citizens. And then there's the 3rd group that wants to totally separate. So why would we want to force an island that has it pretty good, and that so many other people don't want to be, not just don't want to be in a state, in the United States, they don't want to be connected, they want to be totally independent. There's only one reason, because they would get 2 senators, and with a larger population in DC, that would probably be 2 representatives. So if they accomplish that, and they pack the Supreme Court, which is the plan, they're going to go from 9 to 13 justices, even though the Constitution doesn't prescribe the number of justices, but for 95% of our country's existence, we've had 9. It's worked very well. If they pack the Supreme Court, you will never, ever again see a Republican, a conservative, or a Christian in the White House. They'll make sure of that. They'll have the power to do that. They'll also have the power to turn the United States into a totally socialist country. So, yes, we need to get out and fight, and don't do like people are saying. You know, when it gets close to the election, I get out there and start campaigning. Start now. Most of the people whose minds can be changed, it's going to happen in individual conversations. Which party puts the president in the White House?
Say that again.
Which party elects the president?
Which
It's not
party?
It's the Democrats don't decide presidential elections. The Republicans don't. It's the independents, because the Democrats and Republicans are pretty evenly divided. But whichever way the independents go, they're the ones that actually decide the elections. So those are the people that we need to have conversations with and explain to them what it would mean for the country to have a one-party system like they do in all the communist countries. That's what the Democrats want, a one-party system where no one questions them. And if you do question them, then like Colonel Scheller, or, you know, I believe we're going to see people put in prison, attend town halls and forums and city council meetings and school board meetings because they disagreed with the powers that be. So is that the country we want to live in? If not, we need to start now. And if we can get an overwhelming majority in the House and the Senate, then Biden could actually be impeached because he's committed already dozens of impeachable offenses. And some people don't believe this, but the evidence is there. His son's laptop, he lied publicly. He said he knew nothing about his son's business dealings, but there's emails on the laptop where it talks about him attending meetings with his son's backers.
Right.
So Biden says, I've never received money from a foreign government. He doesn't need to when his son and his brother have received billions of dollars from the Chinese government. So why do you think he's so soft on China? Why do you think he's blocking efforts to prove that the China virus came from China? Why do you think he's always trying to divert attention to the more pressing danger of climate change? You know, the fact that the Chinese have nuclear weapons, and they almost have ready long-range nuclear weapons that can reach us, but they don't even need that because we abandoned the Panama Canal, and they now have our military base right at the Panama Canal that we built with American dollars. We control it, and they've got medium-range nuclear missiles that can reach the United States. But they don't even need to do that. They want to take over the country, so they don't want to blow it up. All they have to do is control Biden, which they're doing, because they have they have evidence on him that would put him in prison for the rest of his life. They can also dump all their U.S. treasuries, and in doing so, totally bankrupt the United States. there's other ways of taking over our country. And if you had China, which has the biggest population in the world, and the United States, which right now is the leading economy in the world, you put that together and you've got world domination, which of course communists lust for. So we have to protect ourselves from this poser who's in the White House. And I don't think we can wait 4 years to beat him at the ballot box. I think we need to, in the next year and 3 months, get the House and the Senate under control and impeach the man. People say, well, what difference does it make? Because the one who's really running the country is Kamala Harris. And so she would take over. Well, not really, because she's been involved in his impeachable offenses. So she could be impeached as well. And then we have a constitutional crisis. Supposedly Nancy Pelosi then becoming the president. But since she's done so many illegal things against the Constitution, I think that it would either, the Supreme Court would rule that we have to have another election, or by that time, a lot of the illegal things that happened allowed Biden to occupy the White House. The Supreme Court could rule on them then. Right now they're under too much pressure, and they haven't ruled on many of the things that would prove that President Trump is still President Trump. So that's another possibility. And just, give my opinion. By the way, this is not the opinion of the station that you're listening to, or of your wonderful host, Dwayne. I'm just giving you my opinion. But study for yourself. There's all kinds of material out there. Be careful of what you call research. People all the time tell me, well, I really researched this. What most people call research, first of all, is they go on Google. Well, Google is an extremely left-leaning organization. They control 90% of the searches on the internet.
Right.
Between them and YouTube,
which is the second largest search engine.
And it's owned by Google.
That's right.
Right. So between the two of them, that's 90% of the searches. So use DuckDuckGo. I know it's a dumb sounding name. They're not a conservative search engine, but at least they're not left leaning. They show both sides of the story. But also watch your habits. When you search, what most people do is they'll go down and there's a list of articles. And from the headline for the little blurb they put there, you can tell pretty much what the rest of it's going to be. Just like in the first page of Conservative Truth,
right.
We have all the articles, and we have the title and what we call a blurb. So if your idea of research is what it is for 95% of Americans, is to go down the list and then read the articles that agree with your own opinion that you already have, you haven't researched anything. I saw a guy, his tagline, people have on emails, they'll have a saying or a scripture or whatever. His says, if your opinion is the same as your favorite commentator, you don't have an opinion.
Yeah, I understand that. And, some churches say, well, we're not a denomination, we just preach the Bible. But the truth of that is the people in that congregation, what they're hearing is one man's interpretation of the Bible.
That's true. That's true. And so that's why when I'm preaching, I always tell people, don't take it because I say it. Look in the Bible. Do your own research. Because just because I've got a degree in theology doesn't mean I know everything. Not by a long shot. Right?
Yeah.
I'm on this radio program on the largest national Christian network. It's a call-in show, and people can ask any question about the Bible they want to.
The Bible answered
And
that.
it's like that. It's called To Every Man an Answer.
Okay.
I think the one you're talking about is on another network, but this
Yeah,
is...
I don't even know if it's still an actual show. I just remember hearing it in the past.
Yes. And it's this particular show, To Every Man an Answer. It's great. I mean, it's the guy who runs it, the pastor who is the host, is extremely knowledgeable in the Bible.
Now, are you the guy that's answering the questions, or is he?
Well, I'm the co-host.
Okay.
And he likes to have, someone to talk with and discuss things with. And he'll answer a question, or maybe he'll throw it to me, or he'll answer and then he'll say, do you have anything to add or whatever. But I say this to say that whenever I go on that show, I go on there with fear and trepidation, because I just know one day somebody's going to ask me some question. I've been saved for over 60 years. I've read through the Bible at least once a year on average. But you can't memorize everything. And somebody's going to ask me some question, and I'm not going to be able to answer it, So nobody except Jesus has all the answers. And if any preacher tells you, if you go to a church where he says that you have to believe everything he says, and he's the only one that has the vision and can interpret it, you better be running and finding yourself another church. There's nobody that has all the answers. There's no political commentator. There's certain ones that I like, but they tend to be the ones that let you hear both sides of the story, not just the ones that believe the way I believe. So when you research, make sure that you actually research. Make sure that you listen to differing points of view. I learn as much by listening to the people I disagree with as I do from the people that I agree with. Because if I see them coming up with an argument, then I can research that. And sometimes I find they're right, and my opinion was wrong all along. But since I am right most of the time, at least according to my daughter, I can go in and I can find the information and the documentation that refutes what they say. And then, of course, I have a platform, the conservative website. I realize it might seem like I'm preaching to the choir, because you'd think that only people who are conservative people are going to read it. But my real purpose is not to inform or convince them. It's more to give them documentation, logical arguments that they can use when they're in conversations with their more liberal friends and family. I've had so many people tell me that it's helped them to have that information because they knew in their heart what was true, but they didn't know how to articulate it. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but like I say, keep your mind open, do your research. But if you're listening right now and you're a real liberal person, I respect your opinion, but I would encourage you to do some serious studying, because you'll find out that so many things that people will tell you are totally against the Constitution, and you have to have something you can depend on. So that's our foundational document. I want to sound disrespectful of the Bible when I say this, but the Bible is like, or the Constitution is like the Bible for our country. We have people from a lot of different denominations and religions in the country that don't take the Bible as authoritative, but we should all take the Constitution as authoritative. It's the longest living Constitution in the world, and it's produced a country that, with all of our warts and pimples, is still the best country in the world. So it is like our Bible. It's the one thing that we can depend on to be authoritative and give us the answers in the direction that we need. So if your favorite commentator or pastor or friend that you talk with, if their opinion disagrees with the Constitution, they're entitled to their opinion, but they're still wrong. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So,
That's true.
and as Daffy Duck used to say, that's all, folks.
I think that was Porky Pig.
Oh, it was Porky? Excuse me, Porky.
That's all, folks.
I'm sorry. Well, I do know Mickey Mouse's version. Now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. MIC. See you real soon. KEY.
Why?
Why?
Because we love you.
MOUSE.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Donald will pop up and say, he didn't like Mickey getting the spotlight, Anyway, good talking with you today, brother. Hope
God
everything's
bless you,
well with
Dr.
you.
Tom. We sure appreciate you. I sure appreciate you.
My pleasure, and best to your audience. I pray for everybody that's on this show
Thank you.
every week.
We pray
Because,
for you as well, brother.
amen.
God bless
All right,
you.
have a great
you
rest
so
of the
much.
week.
Okay.
God bless.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. All right, guys. Yesterday we talked about the 4 fundamental elements of prayer. Today, let me remind you that God's only a prayer away. Psalm 34:6. This poor man cried out, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. J.C. Penney, you may remember, has died and gone to heaven, but hundreds of department stores across America still carry his name. That's right, the store J.C. Penney was named after the man, J.C. Penney. When he started out in life, he was interested in only one thing: making money. Working as a clerk for $6 a week, his consuming ambition was to be worth $100,000. When he reached that goal, he felt temporary satisfaction, but soon set his sights on being worth $1 million. Then tragedy struck his life. His wife caught a cold that developed into pneumonia, and she subsequently died. He recalled, when she died, my world crashed about me. To build businesses, to make a success in the eyes of men, to accumulate money, what was the purpose of it all? In his words, he said, I felt mocked by life, even by God himself. Before long, he was ruined financially and in deep depression. It was at that point he turned to God and experienced a miraculous conversion. He said, when I was brought to humility and the knowledge of my dependence on God, it was like a light illuminating my being. I cannot otherwise describe it than to say it changed me as a man. Have things fallen apart in your life today? Are you down, wondering if you'll ever be able to get back up? Turn to God. He's only a prayer away. And David, the psalmist, prayed that prayer. This poor man cried out, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. And what God did for David, He will do for you today. And that's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.